Hello for tuning into another edition of Outside the Shop with me, your host, Daryl D. Lane, where I get to talk about everything that I normally don't get the chance to talk about on my regular sports podcast, Barbershop Sports Talk, which you guys can all find on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iRadio, SoundCloud, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Thank you, everybody, who's tuning in via YouTube live stream, Facebook Live, and Twitter/Periscope. I appreciate all y'all. Check on the descriptions below. I will add in some new description links for the next edition of Outside the Shop. Like, comment, and subscribe. I love your comments as always. Doing this show a little bit early in the morning today. Got work. Got the tie on. Gonna be doing a little bit of substitute teaching in the city of Buffalo. So that should be fun. I am going to be the teacher for like pre-K. So that should be fun. And before we get to that, we got some sports stories to talk about. Saints versus Seahawks, Monday Night Football. Russell Wilson will not be playing. It will be Geno Smith at the helm again. I think taking that into consideration, I'm going to go with the Saints. This is a big game. One team is 4-2. The other team is 2-4, going two completely different directions, right? Two very completely different directions. The Saints are going to need this one. The Panthers have just lost, so they can take control of being that second team in the NFC South and potentially trying to get a berth for a potential playoff scenario. And that's the stream right now. Oh, now the streams. We're back on as a potential playoff berth scenario and being that sixth, seventh team in the NFC. Because, folks, as we're looking at this, people originally thought the NFC West would have 2 wild cards, possibly 3, right? All 4 teams getting in. Now what it's looking like is the Cardinals are getting in, the Rams are getting in, 49ers, Seahawks, we're kind of unsure on that. So that puts in teams like the Bears, that puts in teams like the Vikings, the Falcons. They're 3-3 right now. The Saints, all these teams are in that 6 range of where they could potentially make a run at it in terms of wild card for that 6th and 7th seed. The NFC West second place finisher is going to get the. So I think that's very important when we look at everything in its totality. Now, next up, what we have is this, where I want to get to is versus Lions. I think that it was a very interesting game. The Rams end up coming out with a win. Jared Goff threw 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. I think, and I talked to my friend Silas Garrison about this. Matthew Stafford is one of the most disrespected quarterbacks I can ever imagine. This dude was a number 1 overall pick. All he did was get his butt whooped in Detroit for years. People say he should have won more playoff games in Detroit. Well, guess what? Here's what happened. One of those games, he had to go to New Orleans and face Drew Brees and Sean Payton. We know what happens historically when you go to the Superdome there. Also, they got robbed by the Dallas Cowboys. It was and then actually, ironically, the Cowboys got robbed against the Packers. That's a whole other story for a whole other. But should have won a playoff game. And also, it's not always on the quarterback. The Detroit Lions went through like 100 games or something like crazy like that where they never had an 100-yard rusher. The offensive line was never that good. The defense wasn't great. They gave him Calvin Johnson. They gave him Dominican. So you need more than just a wide receiver, a pretty good D lineman to win in this league. Nobody ever looked at Detroit Lions and say, oh, their coaching, their game plan is so immaculate like people do in New England. Like people say this about Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, these type of coaches. Nobody ever said that in Detroit. Nobody ever said in Detroit, oh, they are so talented. Never said that. Nobody ever talked about their talent. Historically, I think the last decade, the Packers for sure had more talent. The Bears had more talent. The Vikings had more talent. The Vikings had some really good defenses in there. So did the Bears. They also had some pretty good skill position groups. I mean, there was a point where the Bears had guys like Brandon Marshall there, and they had a couple other receivers that I'm forgetting. And then obviously the Vikings, Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, guys like that, it's just no comparison. So Matthew Stafford is a guy that's been criminally underrated. Jared Goff is a guy that's had so much help and hasn't delivered well. Matthew Stafford saved jobs. He saved careers in Detroit. He kept people afloat. He kept them relevant, which is something very hard to do. And listen, nobody's ever won in Detroit. Barry Sanders retired in the middle of his prime. Also, Calvin Johnson retired in his prime. The problem is Detroit, not the player. Sometimes it's the parent, not the child. Sometimes it's the teacher, not the student. Sometimes it's the boss, not the worker, right? Sometimes. And next, we're going to get to teams that impressed me and unimpressed me. So we're going to start with impressed. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they absolutely throttled the Chicago Bears. Made my spread prediction look awfully wrong, by the way. Tom Brady in this passing game by the Buccaneers, they were dominant, 4 touchdowns, and they did it without Antonio Brown and Robert Gronkowski, 2 of Tom Brady's favorite targets. Mike Evans had a vintage Mike Evans game, over 100 yards. Chris Godwin, who got into action as well. They made Justin Fields look pretty pedestrian. 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And then you get to the other teams that impressed me. The Cincinnati Bengals blowing out the Baltimore Ravens 41-17. Folks, I've been trying to keep telling you, the Cincinnati Bengals have everything you could want. Jamar Chase, top 5 wide receiver. Joe Mixon, top 5 running back. Joe, top 12 quarterback. Quickly and fastly approaching top 10 in the league. And the defense is very under with Trey Hendrickson, the guy they got from the Saints. They got a couple other additions. They're very good at tackling, making one-on-one tackles in space. Their only weakness is really their offensive line isn't that great. But besides that, the Cincinnati Bengals are a complete football team. They're the best team in an AFC North that people are saying was the best division in the AFC with the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Cleveland Browns. And who is the last man standing right now? It is the Cincinnati Bengals team. The New England Patriots, they impressed me. If you would have told me coming into this weekend that the New England Patriots would have put up 50 points, I would have been shocked. That's what they did, folks. They made Zach Wilson look pedestrian. Zach Wilson actually ended up getting hurt, and then the backup, whose name is escaping me at the moment, had to come into the game. But New England was really good, and hopefully they can build off of this and become a little bit more dynamic on offense. But very impressive to put up 50 points on any NFL game. That's a college football type score. And then next, Tennessee Titans destroying the Kansas City Chiefs on both sides of the ball, 27-3. They may have silenced the kingdom for good. Lord have mercy, kick the Chiefs out the playoffs. What a whooping of the highest order, man. Whip their tails at the line, do anything. Derrick Henry was a man amongst boys. Dan, that was looking very good. A.J. Brown was running over dudes. The Chiefs have a lot of soul searching to do it. I'll just put it there. And then teams that unimpressed me, the Ravens. After blowing out the Chargers, you need to beat the Bengals, right? Take control of the AFC. Take control of the AFC North. And now they're looking at a situation now where they're on the road to start wild card weekend instead of being at home. Very big difference. The Chiefs, a team that I predict to win the AFC this year, they have been awful. Tyrann Mathieu doesn't want to tackle. There's a video on YouTube of Tyrann Mathieu just not being willing to tackle. They can't really get after the quarterback. The Chiefs have a chronic illness in football, right? And this is death. This is cancer in football terms. They can't block. They can't shed. They can't tackle. They can't get off the field on third down. If you can't do that, you can't win in this league. You just simply can't rely on Patrick Mahomes to be Superman every single play, and Patrick Mahomes is not a god out there. He's extremely talented, the most talented quarterback I've ever seen with my own 2 eyes, but he's not a god. Also, the 49ers disappointed. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't play that great against the Colts and the Rams. You need to be more dynamic, and this is why there's Trey Lance clamoring right now. And the Panthers, for a team that started out 3-0, Sam Darnold has been awful the last 4 games. They had to bench him for a CFL, a football league guy. That is never a good sign. If the football 4 in, last 4 out, I'm going to give you my tier 1. Actually, I'm going to start from the bottom. So tier 4. Tier 4 at number 8 and number 7, that would be Michigan State and Michigan. These are the 2 teams that are squarely on the outside looking in right now. Then there is tier 3. And these are the teams that I'm not completely sold on, but they're not in that next elite class of tier 2 and tier 1. And those tier 3 teams would be at number 5, Oregon, at number 4, at number 4, Oklahoma. No, excuse me, at number 6, Oregon, at number 5, Oklahoma, and at number 4, Cincinnati. All 3 of these teams, I think, have had suspect close wins. They've all had pretty big wins. Cincinnati, actually, ironically, has the second best win out of all of them. Oklahoma's been very suspect despite their quarterback change. And Oregon, I'm not sold on Oregon. They're having close games against Fresno State and Cal. Like, what's with the Oregon deal? I don't understand. My guy Ben Kieran loves Oregon. I don't get why. I don't understand who Oregon is. What has Oregon done besides beating Ohio State? And then my tier 2. Number 3, Ohio State. Number 2, Alabama. To me, these are still the top 2 teams in the country. Alabama, Ohio State in this year. They have very good quarterback play. All can score. Their defenses can be just good enough. Have a lot of NFL prospects. NFL head coaching. Both very good programs, storage programs. They are 3 and they are 2. And at number 1, the Georgia Bulldogs, suffocating defense, one of the best defenses of all time. We're going to look back on this defense and compare it to Alabama of 2011 and LSU of 2011. That's how special this defense is. And that is my first 4 in, last 4 out. And I'll say it again. At number 8, I have Michigan State. At number 7, I have Michigan. At number 6, I have Oregon. At number 5, I have Oklahoma. At number 4, Cincinnati. At number 3, Ohio State. At number 2, Alabama. And number 1, Georgia. Ironically, hey, funny thing for Big Ten supporters, 3 Big Ten teams in there. Take that for what you will. And then lastly, Clemson losing patient with DJ Ongalea. And Dabo Swinney said nothing's guaranteed. DJ Ongalea, starting quarterback for Clemson, 5-star recruit, had a very big game against Notre Dame when Trevor Lawrence got COVID last year. He is out. He might be out in terms of being benched. I just want to say this quickly before I have to go because I'm running short on time right now. My ride's about to probably knock on the door any minute. But here's the thing. Trent Dilfer was talking about this. He basically said that DJ Ongalea, he has regressed. He said that Clemson is not very good at developing quarterbacks. He explained how Trevor Lawrence regressed at Clemson, but Trevor Lawrence is just so talented, so that did not work. DJ Ongalea, he was 12 of 25, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks against Pittsburgh. It's looking like we could see a Pittsburgh Wake Forest ACC championship game. Could I believe that? I can see that with my own 2 eyes. That could be a thing. And Clemson sitting at home. And this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to leave you guys with this. Dabo Swinney, look at LSU. Top 5 program in the land, better program than Clemson. You're going to get better recruits, the same facilities, same pay, get to play in the SEC, get to challenge yourself against the big boys, but different style, maybe a little bit harder to make the playoffs, but sometimes you take a place as far as it can go. If Dabo Swinney doesn't think he can tap into that, Trevor Watson, 2 championships, 4 championship appearances, multiple college football playoff appearances threshold again. He needs to leave to LSU pronto. And that's all we have for this edition of Outside the Shop. Everybody have a great day and God bless. Also, podcast is out. I will not have that posted on Facebook and Twitch a little bit later in the day because obviously I have work. But check that out. Me and my guy Kenny Sim, scouting expert for 247 Sports. We recap everything week 7 of NFL action. So check that out. Have a great day, everybody. Again, God bless.